Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Between Two Coins. I'm so excited about today's show. As you can see, I'm joined by two very special guests. One of them you definitely know, and one of them you probably, some of you who've been watching the Crypto Jeb channel for a while are going to recognize, but I'll introduce him first. This is our sales manager, Greg Gressick. He is joining the show today. How you doing today, Greg?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, Tim. I'm excited.
Yeah. And we're also joined by Matt C, all the way from Cali. How are you doing this morning? Technically, we're shooting this the day before, but people are watching this in the morning. So how are you doing this morning, Matt C?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me again. Catching up a little bit after being in Texas for a few days, but feeling good.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be a fun episode because we're also joined by old Smain, sitting at the technical director desk.
Hello, everybody.
The reason he's not in the the three segments is because it's me, Greg, and Matt. We're going to talk about our experience last weekend at Consensus 2022 in Austin, Texas. It was fun. The funnest part about the whole thing, though, was that the three of us got to room together. So I want to, we're going to talk crypto stuff. We're going to talk about some stuff that applies to crypto world as well. But I also want us to discuss some of the funny stories that happened out there because it was a very, very eventful week. Other than being ridiculously stupid hot and exhaustive, it was an overall pleasurable and profitable trip. But I want to kick it off. I want to start with you, Matt. What was your biggest takeaway from Consensus 2022 out there in Austin?
Yes, besides the heat, I being out here in a dry heat, I'm not used to that humidity. Whoa, that was pretty rough. Echoing what we heard in the interview with Charles Hoskinson, and we could talk about that a little bit later. The Consensus conference was pretty diverse. We had all attended Bitcoin in Bitcoin 22 this year earlier, and that was a lot more Bitcoin centric. And the Consensus conference really encompassed so much more of the crypto space as a whole. And so I think that seeing all the different players it come together in one place, that was kind of the different takeaway that I had from this show compared to the Bitcoin show.
Yeah.
A little more broad.
Yeah. What about you, Greg? What was your biggest takeaway or your favorite thing about the whole conference?
Well, like Matt said, the heat was incredibly hot. Like when I say hot, 108 degrees, you could put an egg on the sidewalk, it would cook hot. It was unreal. But besides that, Consensus in itself made me think of the three I's: the innovators, the imitators, and the idiots. And we were in the presence of the innovators. The people who are
I think there's a good healthy combination of the three of them.
I think so too.
Well, there's always imitators around and innovators.
It's true.
They're true. Always following. They're kind of like the little fish on the whale, right? Just kind of like riding around with it. But yeah, I mean, we saw some incredible innovators in the space who are in this new industry, which is known as Web 3.0. And I think it's crazy if you really start to research this, and I think we should do a little bit of talk on what Web 3.0 is. You're going to realize that cryptocurrency is way more than just a digital asset that is legible because of blockchain technology. It is literally just a small part of a very big whole that is Web 3.0, where the industry is literally, like, all business is going to be moving towards this. And we are in the midst of an industrial revolution, but in the digital age. So it is...
Exactly.
It's so significant what's happening right now with Web 3.0, and Consensus is really talking about that and explaining that to people who've never even heard about it.
Yeah, it's true. No, I mean, there's so many things there pulling out. Even when I'm thinking about my favorite parts of the whole thing, it probably is tied to the heat. The heat was so ridiculous. Just so you guys know, so we're rooming together, Matt, Greg, and I. The first day, we decided, hey, let's walk it. We're probably staying, I don't know, about a half mile from the conference, give or take. We're like, let's walk it. Yes, it's hot out there, but we'll make it there. We'll get into the hotel. First of all, the conference was spread out between 3 different hotels, and even those hotels had some distance between them. So we're walking. 5 minutes? Is 5 minutes even enough time before the sweat started to set in and the chafing, and it just was absolutely ridiculous. I don't know about you guys.
It was less. We walked out the door. I think we made that first corner down the alley, which we, had
The
fun down
poop
the
alley.
alley. Yeah.
We had a poop.
It was yeah, it was, I think it was about within a minute. I'm from California. The heat's a little bit different for me. You guys are, at least in Florida, where you're used to some humidity. Wow. Yeah. So the walking to the show was immediately nixed. No more walking to the show. Scooters only.
As far as, and that's what I was going to get to, is the scooters. But even when you come to Florida, it's hot in Florida. But I think Greg was the one that kind of phrased this, and I'm going to reiterate, and you can kind of play with this. In Florida, it's hot and it's humid, but when there's a breeze, it cools you off. I don't know what it's like out in Cali, but in Austin, it was like having it was like having someone's hot breath on you the whole time.
No, it's an air dryer.
Breeze was not helpful whatsoever.
There's no movement. There's no like, literally the heat is just on you. It's the weirdest feeling in the world. And anybody who's from Texas, God bless you.
Yeah.
But wow, like I will be returning for crypto conferences, not leisure.
But those scooters came in clutch. I'd never ridden one before. Greg, I guess, is used to that, living down in St. Pete. Those scooters, not only were they fun, they were so clutch.
Yeah.
Getting us from point A to point B. And actually a pretty reasonably financially conservative way. Like most of our trips, we just it's like a $4 trip to get over there to the conference.
$3, $3.50.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was, I'm not gonna lie, there were so many details about that trip that I loved. But riding those scooters around definitely was fun. But, one of the things that you said, Greg, I want to get into, the 3 I's. You said, what was it? It was the...
innovators, imitators, and the idiots.
Yeah, so a lot of innovators, obviously. We'll probably talk a little more Charles Hoskinson down the road, because Greg is definitely going to talk about Charles Hoskinson, his new best friend.
I'm wearing Cardano underwear right now.
Exactly.
Everybody knows that.
I want to discuss, even tell some of the stories. I assumed when we went to the conference, that the people going... were very knowledgeable in the space. They're there because they want to network, they want to learn a little bit more and expand out of their horizon. I didn't realize, we kind of asked this question at Bitcoin 2022, how many people are here that don't really know that much about crypto or are very new to crypto and they're here to learn? It's not like these tickets were cheap. These were decently, I think some of them were over $2,000 per ticket. So I'm expecting, hey, these are influencers, these are business owners, I don't think people are here to learn. And I overheard some crazy stuff. Like, for example, I was walking past Cardano booth, and there's these 2 girls right in front of me, and they're talking to each other, and they're like, "Oh, that's a Cardano booth. I want to go over there and look more into them. I heard that they're really flopping hard right now, and they're probably going to crash and die because they're overpriced at the moment." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Someone doesn't pay attention to news updates, but." Yeah, and then there was another one. There's another one. We were walking past the Ripple booth, and they're talking about, how is Ripple still alive? I heard they got sued. And it's like, oh,
yeah, that was a good
wow,
one.
you're behind the times. What about you guys? What were some of your guys' favorite overhearings?
But that's the point. I mean, that's kind of the good part of it, right? Because we want new people to come into the space. Right? And again, going back to the diversity of the show. There was the people that have been in the space for years and years and years and years, and then we have the people that are just getting into it for the first time. Look, I still consider myself on the newer side of that ledger, because I've only been in for a little more than a year and a half. So still a lot for me to learn, and so I think that's actually a good thing that we did over here, and did see those new people coming in that were interested and excited and wanted to learn. That's what and I hope that continues to expand as we go forward.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. Like, I think it's great. I was just very surprised to be like, wow, there are people who don't necessarily keep up with crypto. What kind of person? And I love it, but what person is spending $2,000 on a ticket to come to a conference? Crypto, and they don't even know that much about crypto. So good for them, but it surprised me that person would be there at the conference.
Well, Tim, I think when we look at like the cryptocurrency industry as a whole, right, and we're talking about Web 3.0 a little bit as an industry, I think about, that person may have not known anything about Cardano or about XRP, but I think of this industry as a body made up of many members, right? And everybody has a part to play. And who knows? These girls might have been gatherers. They were good at getting people together. Who knows?
Potentially.
And what's crazy is when you get into these spaces is you might hear some really offhand conversations about information that you're like, I thought this was common knowledge. Like, how do you not know this? But yet they're still working in the industry as something totally different than you. And it's actually playing a part in building the bigger part of what cryptocurrency is attached to, which is Web 3.0. So it's just funny. Like I heard conversations. I'm like, how do you not know that? I'm like, oh, we're TA people. Like,
Right.
Of course we're going to know price points. Of course we're going to know utility. People don't know that. So I just thought it was funny. Like,
It's true.
We're hearing weird things, but
True. Maybe we're
they're
in
a
this
part of
little
the
bubble,
industry.
yeah. Another story. This wasn't funny because this wasn't at the conference. This was outside the conference. We heard, or I'm going to say Greg heard, and he was the one that pointed us this direction. There was this barbecue joint in Austin
Franklin's.
that everyone recommends. Yeah, Franklin's Barbecue.
Franklin's.
It's
Out in
supposed to be
Austin.
the go-to spot. We got dropped off by our Uber driver because that one it was far enough away. We didn't want to take the scooters. We Ubered that one.
And can I just jump in for 1 second? I'd like to say thank you guys for dragging the vegetarian around to every
Oh, yeah, I
major meat
forgot.
spot that we could possibly find in Austin. Thank you. That was fantastic.
But there was like 99% barbecue places, and we're all looking around to go
It's
places. and
Austin,
just-
Texas. I don't think they
I'll
let
eat the
vegetarians
beans.
move there. Anyway, so
we managed.
so we go to this spot and we had dropped off the line. I mean, there's probably at least outside of the restaurant because there's a line that goes into the restaurant. What would you guys say? 40 people in that line ahead of us?
50.
And the Uber driver says, "Oh, this is a good time." We're like, "What?" Like, "Oh, that line's short."
Oh yeah, you'll be
We're
in
like,
no
"Okay,
time.
this place better taste like we're gonna be eating baby angels or something. Like this barbecue better be tops." But we're waiting in line. We don't end up eating the barbecue, but it was the conversation that gets the point of the story. These guys come behind us, and so Greg, I'm gonna let Greg take it over.
Yeah.
But we start engaging with these guys. We tell
Hey,
them why
you
we're there.
you guys here at that crypto conference? Yeah, we're at Consensus. Oh, cool. Yeah, I dabble in crypto.
Yeah.
Oh, cool, man. Like, what crypto? Have you heard of Monero? Yeah, we heard of that. That kind of like died out, didn't it? I said, yeah, this is not really around, but I used it to buy some shrooms.
Dude. This dude had no shame whatsoever, but his entry point into whole crypto was that he found a way to illegally buy shrooms. So,
And the way that he said it with such, I don't want to say blank face, but just so as a matter
Casual.
of factly.
oh yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I finally learned the actual use case of Monero,
Yeah.
which I didn't know that it was to purchase shrooms. But yeah, I mean,
It's the shroom crypto.
didn't it seem like he did it more than once? Like that
Oh, no.
was what they used it for.
I'm
What did
not
they say? They were
surprised
out
if he
on
went home
tour,
that
right?
night
They
and
were on
used more
tour?
Monero.
That guy was a trip. No pun
It
intended.
was funny. It was, I mean, the people of, and I think, even we went, because we went in Austin, we actually traveled and went on campus to the University of Texas. And even the girl sitting well, no, that wasn't the girl at the front desk. It was the girl at the restaurant who talked about how Austin is his own world. It doesn't belong in Texas whatsoever.
Yeah.
It was an
Correct.
interesting town.
Yeah,
It's its own
Austin.
universe.
I mean,
But-
I was expecting tumbleweeds and Republicans.
No,
Man, it was just totally different.
it was not that. That city, that was the other thing about that whole trip. The city was not ready. I think average
Not at all.
restaurant staff during that entire week was one cook and one waiter. It was
yeah.
pretty ridiculous. That the city was not ready. The other things, Matt pointed out, we were talking with reps from CoinDesk, who put on the entire conference, and Matt begins to tell them the problems with their conference. Matt, what was your takeaway from the conference? How do you think CoinDesk was able to handle that?
Yeah, it was. Well, yeah, I mean, again, if we're going to compare to Bitcoin, and it is apples to apples in some sense, it's Consensus wasn't as organized, I would say, that Bitcoin 2022 was. But then again, Bitcoin's the OG. They've done more conferences. They have more money behind them.
Right.
And quite frankly, what I've heard, I didn't attend, but I think you guys may have attended in 2021.
Mm-mm.
2021 for Bitcoin conference was not great. There was 6 hours or 7 hours for people to get in the first day, just to get their passes to enter the conference. So, my personal experience was a little bit limited because I've only been to the two. But Consensus, again, it was a different vibe. They've got some things to work out, and I'm sure it'll get better every year because the space is growing.
Yeah.
And that was pretty evident. Like you said, Tim, we had people coming in, they're willing to drop thousands of dollars just to be exposed to crypto. And good on them. And I think over time it will work itself out and become bigger and bigger and bigger and more organized and just better.
Yeah. Well, let's transition. It was a fun experience. Other than being a fun experience out there in Austin, there was some amazing takeaways. And I want to start, and this might be all we talk about when we talk about these takeaways. we got to sit in the room during a live interview with Charles Hoskinson, Harry and Jet and their team. What's the company's name again?
Yeah, so let's how about a
Pennywise.
shout
Pennywise.
out to
Yeah,
it's Pennyfly Entertainment.
Pennyfly.
Pennywise is the clown
Hey.
from it.
Pennyfly. So big shout out to Harry, the crypto vet,
Yes.
and to Jet Prescott from Pennyfly Entertainment, also contributing writer for Rolling Stone.
Yeah.
Yes.
They were incredibly gracious to allow us to tag along with them in their interview with Charles. To think that we got to sit in that, I mean, it was a tiny room, what was it, maybe a 10 by 10 room?
Yeah.
And,
It was
to
very
be
small,
so
little
close
private room.
to Charles and his team,
Mm-hmm.
and to be able to sit in on that interview 5 feet away was, that was a really special moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can't lie.
Well, I want to start.
So
and I'll start.
thank you to them for letting us tag along. It was awesome.
Yeah, I want to start with you, Matt. What was your big takeaway? Because again, when we get to Greg, we'll talk about what he heard after his jaw came up off the ground again. But what was your biggest takeaway from that interview? Because it was really cool just to be in the room with him, but then to even hear him explain things and talk about the future. What was the thing that stood out the most to you from that interview?
Like I said at the very beginning, that moment where, and again, I don't want to divulge too much. Maybe we'll be able to find the link. Maybe you guys can post a link where that interview is going to post.
Right.
I'm not even sure where that's going to be up.
Yeah.
But hearing Charles say the diversity that he experienced at the conference, and crypto in general. And I said this to you guys, I think before, maybe even on the last time I was on with you on Between Two Coins. That is something that has always drawn me to crypto, is how people from all over have come together for this one thing and have found a way to get along. I don't know how else to put it, and be on the same mission. And what was it that Charles said? He goes, in the past, in the tech world, every single conference that he ever went to was always majority white, young males.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yep.
And that's a fact. Crypto is different. We see people from every economic level. We see people from all over the world. We're seeing a ton of women come into the space, which is hugely important because they're going to be a major, major part in the crypto world. And that diversity is special. And it's what crypto in general, I think, makes it different than all the rest of the tech that we've seen previously. So when he brought that up, it really resonated with me because it's something that I've identified with.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to hear one of the leading people, someone that's really got their feet anchored into the space, to see it the same way. That was my biggest takeaway.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Greg?
3.5 years ago, I got into cryptocurrency because I stumbled upon a YouTube video called "What is Cardano?" And I listened to a guy named Charles Hoskinson explain what Cardano was. And at that point, I didn't fully understand, but I knew I was interested because of the use case of the currency and what it was actually going to accomplish in tackling real-world problems. And I would say since then, I've probably put in over 1,000 hours of study and really trying to understand what the Cardano ecosystem is and what it's going to accomplish. And the more I get to know, the more fascinated I've become. And the person who is Charles Hoskinson, I truly believe is Steve Jobs before Steve Jobs was Steve Jobs. Like, he is by far one of the most innovative minds we've seen. And I think honestly, I can't think of anybody else besides Steve Jobs introducing the iPhone in 2007 and showing people what an app was. Like, this guy, his brain is wired in such a way where he's thinking global. I mean, to change the world is a super ambitious thing. And I know a lot of people say, hey, if you want to change the world, change yourself. You can start small. But I think he's done that. I think he has a very good idea about who he is and how he's wired. And that is so transcendent upon the way that he carries himself. Even with, being as rich as he is. I mean, the guy's wearing a plaid shirt, no watch. I mean, it's like he doesn't talk price.
No.
He's truly about the fundamentals. And he's going to work every day, putting in the time. I mean, talk about discipline. I mean, if you make a couple $1 billion, don't you just quit and move on? that's not why he's in it. And you see that more and more as he
Clearly.
discusses the project. And as we got to sit in on an interview, and, you know, he is one of the main reasons I got into this space. And I would even say I probably have my job right now. It's because I started learning about this and got interested in it 3.5 years ago. His ability to articulate what Cardano is going to accomplish with the proof of asset and identification system that it's going to supply the world is so amazing. And I cannot wait 10 years from now to see how many lives are changed because of it. And so for me, it was just getting reintroduced to the beauty and the magnificent like challenges that Cardano is going to overcome in the future. And I got to, you know, he came up to me afterwards and he went to go shake my hand. I hugged him. I was like, and he didn't hug me back. He's just like, and then I was like, I'm sorry. I love you, man. Like I listen to you all the time. And then he snatches my hat off my head, and his publicist kind of covered her mouth. She was like, oh, he doesn't sign things. I was like, oh, and signed my hat,
that was great.
Put it on my head and took a picture with him. And I just felt blessed. So it was cool.
Yeah, I think.
Now, I did also get, though, the extra Charles experience of side-by-side urinals after the interview.
That's true. You had pee talk.
You know, we had a little pee talk there. Yes.
Okay.
He proceeded to tell me how he once stood next to Kevin Costner while he was peeing. So, you know,
Dude.
we got a little insight into Charles.
No, Charles, that's funny. Even some of the talk he did off camera, he's a funny guy. He was really engaging. You know, when you think about it, how many people are grabbing at a person like that, right? All day long, especially at a conference. And again, really cool of him. He walked the floors. I mean,
with 4 bodyguards.
Like you said, like, Greg, it's okay. But it's like the equivalent of someone like, you know, an Elon Musk or Steve Jobs going to a computer conference and walking the floors. I mean, that was pretty cool. So he's engaged in the people that are in the space.
Yes.
He really wants it to be a community. And he behaves in that way. So, you know, that was great.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. My biggest takeaway, I had a couple of them, but even just his genuine nature. Because one of the things about Charles that made Cardano and himself stick out from the first place, set aside how great the tech is and what his brain cells are computing in there, it was his realness and openness and consistency to be open with the audience. Him creating a YouTube channel, him constantly updating people on what's going on, and being very open to all questions and going on other channels. There aren't really other creators that are as open as a person as him. And then his complete honesty as well. So one of the things he talks about is, it was funny because Matt and I had that conversation literally the morning before the interview. We had talked about security as a whole and the concept of, well, okay, let's say you have your money in crypto, in DeFi, you put that in your own cold wallet, and you have your seed phrases, you have your keys. Well, there's a lot of people out there that if they were to die tomorrow, they're walking and they get hit by a bus, what's going to happen to that money? Does their family even know how to go about getting that from them? Because right now, if I had stocks, or if I had, you know, a hedge fund or whatever, and let's say I'm set up with, and I think Matt was talking about Ameritrade, like if you die, it's not even like the family members have to reach out to them. Ameritrade reaches out to you as the spouse and says, hey, you know, you are the receiver of these goods. We're going to transfer everything.
Beneficiary, yeah.
So that's not how crypto works. And so Matt and I have been talking about how this is something we need to educate the space on. That at the moment, as great as cold wallets are, and we should encourage people to educate themselves and set themselves up with them, there's a lot of people who are not thinking about what happens after them, because you do have the opportunity to create generational wealth in crypto. But if you don't pass off the information to those beneath you, then it's going to not be generational wealth. It's going to die with you. Yep. And so what I thought was really refreshing is he talked about that. He discussed how that's a current issue, and he kind of reiterated what Matt and I were talking about, is that everyone should have a cold wallet, but there are some people who at the moment shouldn't. Like everyone should get to where they do. But what he's working on with Cardano is a project, a way to solve that. And what I also loved is you're going to see other coins, other projects come out saying, we're tackling this issue right now. He was very honest. He's like, man, we are 3 to 5 years away in blockchain technology from actually accomplishing a lot of the things that we can do. Like when we're talking about Web3, and we're talking about the upgrades that we have from now, you know, back when they first invented the internet in general, Web 1. He's like, we have come a long way, but there's still a long way to go. And I remember him talking about, I don't know if he said he interviewed the person, which I don't think he would have been the one who interviewed the person. I think he was talking about reports and interviews where the creators of the original internet were asked if you could go back, and this had to be more recently because they were saying if they could go back and redo it.
Yeah.
What they didn't take into account was identity, was people being able to secure their identity. When they created the internet, the computers at that point were almost the size of like RVs, and there's only the massive companies that had them. In their brain, when they created the internet, there wasn't this use case where people were going to pull out a cell phone out of their pocket and search the web. So what they said
And
is
they're like, we're not going to drive an 18-wheeler down the road.
yes,
We're
and
safe.
yeah. So they said if they could go back and redo the whole thing, it would be all about identity. Well, guess what? Crypto and blockchain is amazing at doing is it allowing you to secure all this stuff on this blockchain. The future of IDs, of contracts, of everything is going to be through blockchain technology, and NFTs and all the space. But he said even with that, this is what I loved about his refreshing honesty. We are still 3 to 5 years away in blockchain technology from really that being the use case.
Yep.
And I'm not going to try to rush this down the road. You know, there was that thing that came out a couple weeks ago, I think it was about 2 weeks ago now, where Solana kind of got on to Charles Hoskinson, the owner, the creator of Solana, kind of was like, oh, Charles, you take too long. You wait for the perfect scenarios. And it's like, yes. No, that's exactly what you should be doing. You know, I remember when it first came out, and May, you've been quiet this whole time, but I remember you being the one kind of pointing this out. When Solana first came out, I don't know if you guys remember, but the hype train that they started with was, oh, remember that movie Ready Player One, where the people can like live in the game world? That's what we're doing. That's what we're building right now. And Smay was kind of the first one to call BS on that. And Smay, Smay, do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been on my tenure on this channel has been very much about being the one guy who's like, that just seems too good to be true. Right. And there's a lot of times where I'm wrong about it. I guess like a broken clock is right twice a day. Like there's a lot of times where things do live up to the hype. And I think like Cardano for that instance, I was skeptical of Cardano and Charles for a little bit. I was like, this seems too good to be true. He seems to be, really kind of hyping himself up and whatever. But no, he's really lived it out and proved it up to this point.
Yeah.
But, there's a lot of times where my meter starts going off, and Solana was one of the biggest ones. And I remember even when everyone was trying to convince me otherwise, I was like, no, it just doesn't. It just seems, with what I know about how, development works, and it's not a lot, but I know some, and I just know that based on what they're doing and what they're promising, it's just not realistic.
Right.
So it's like
5 million Ethiopian students are using the Cardano network right now.
Right. Well,
Wow.
but that's what I'm saying is that as great as what he's building, I loved his refreshing nature of, unlike people like that run Solana, unlike some of these other projects that they're going to promise you these amazing things right now, what he's saying is, hey, we're going to be really honest, blockchain technology isn't even there yet.
yeah.
Yep.
Give us 3 to 5 years to continue to build this. That's what we're doing at Cardano.
Yeah.
That's the reason why, right there alone. That is why. That's why he is so against people talking about price. Even I know Greg had a talk with one of the key members there, and they like us. I think it sounds like they like us, but they give us one piece of feedback. They gave us one feedback, and it was, it seems like you guys are always talking about price on Cardano.
Why do you do that? I mean, I know you're a TA channel, but why would you talk about price?
That's what we discussed the team. I was like, well, we are a technical analysis specialized channel. We do price analysis. So we're gonna have to continue to do that. But the thought there is that concept of these projects are so much bigger than price.
Yeah.
Price is not the most important thing to pay attention to. If it hits 0, then we're in trouble. But if Cardano gets down to 15 cents, 10 cents, 5 cents, does that change the fundamentals of what they're building and what the future looks like in their project? Absolutely not. And that's what he's really kind of honing in there. And so even that, when he started talking about Web3, and not that I'd never heard stuff about Web3, but it's something I still need to kind of grasp and get more comfortable with. But he's talking about the future of how every single business transact, the future of how the entire world will transact. Like Web3 is the future, not just of the crypto space, not just of how emails and work. It's the future of business transactions, the future of how we interact with each other. And some people don't like that. Some people, I'm a type of person who likes face-to-face more. But just even hearing him, I'm like, man, if there's a company that I'm going to follow into Web3, it's going to be the one that's honest and taking things step by step, not the ones that promise something and then underdeliver and then rug pull it out from under you. That was the biggest thing I took away is just, I told people on the show on Coffee and Crypto earlier this week, you can say that we're shilling Cardano. We're not. We don't get a single dime from them. In fact, like I said, they even kind of told us we don't really like some of the videos you make about us. We like you guys. We just don't always like the videos.
Yeah.
That's okay.
That's hard to hear.
That's okay. We love you and we love the project. So we're still going to talk about it.
Yeah.
And again, hearing those things like that, when I see comments and I see people going on like, oh, stop shilling Cardano. Cardano's garbage. It's going to die. I'm like, all right, you can have your opinion, but I can have mine. And I'm the one on the camera at the moment.
We have the microphone.
So
Yeah. What does Jeb always say that, and I'm paraphrasing, that the price always lags the development.
Mm-hmm.
Price is downstream from the fundamentals.
Downstream. Thank you. Yeah. And that really, I believe that's going to play out accurately for Cardano.
Yeah.
And, and it's kind of funny that people have a problem with, what do they say? It's vaporware. It doesn't do anything. They're not paying attention then.
Yes.
They're not looking at what they're building.
Yeah, it's no longer a speculative project. There are things that are actually
exactly.
being used that
It's
are in
their
motion.
foundation seems to be getting so strong, so big. It's got so much validity to it that, okay. So it might take 3 or 4 or 5 years. That's okay. It's nothing. It's nothing in the grand scheme. Not when you're trying to bank the unbanked. That is a monumental task.
Yeah.
Right. And like Greg, you were saying about bringing, countries that have no access to identification. And we take for granted how important identification is. It's just because we've always had it. When you don't have it and you're trying to go through a system, it doesn't work without having accurate identification.
Right.
So
it's all about accessibility, man.
Things.
Yeah, it's accessibility, Matt. And you're hitting the nail on the head. This is why I'm so passionate about this. And by the way, if you haven't invested in Cardano yet or going to invest in Cardano, like obviously this would be a great time to buy, right? Like you would advise that,
Sure.
TA Tim, right?
I mean, we've been in a great place to buy for a long time when you're thinking about 10 years from now. Yeah, of course, buying at $1 doesn't look good when you're sitting at 50 cents. But buying at $1 looks amazing when you're looking at $5, $10, $20.
Right.
So,
and here would be my trading or investing philosophy. Don't trade Cardano. Invest in Cardano. And the best way you're going to be able to hold in Cardano and not sell Cardano and at least hold 10,000 of them if you can get there, which I think will make you a millionaire at some point in the future. Study it, learn it, understand the practical application of what its utility is going to accomplish. I mean, if you take, for example, the accessibility of identification, like Matt was referencing, think about a man who lives in Africa on a piece of land who goes to jail, dies, something happens to him, but his family is left on that land in their house, but they have no ability to show proof of ownership. What happens to that land? What happens to that house? What happens to that family? If
it's taken from them.
Yeah, if somebody wants to take it from them, they can. And we take for granted the accessibility we have to DMVs in places where we can get identification, where things are legalized. But in these countries where those things aren't adjacent to the villages or the places that people are living in, what you end up having is a bunch of people who become misplaced, right, or abandoned. And the Cardano system, through the grace of the internet, is actually going to allow people to show proof of stake and proof of asset through a form of identification. And that is the beauty of giving people significance and value that is attached to ownership. And so when we start looking at that,
legitimizing them in a way. If you think about it, it's
through blockchain
legitimizing
technology, it's remarkable. It is what it is. And I mean, our voting that is going to take place, and Charles Hoskinson referenced this in an interview 6 months ago, but they're going to start locally and they're probably going to start in Wyoming. But I guarantee you in the future, 10, 20, 30 years from now, I think we're going to be using Cardano ecosystem to do the primary elections. And we're going to see presidents voted, and the verification process is going to take place on that network. So, I mean,
and if it's not Cardano, I agree with you. I think the blockchain is where it's all going to go.
Yes.
Right. Like you said at the beginning, the world is going to live on the blockchain. I have no doubt about that.
Yep.
I don't know exactly when that's going to happen or how they're going to get there. They're getting there. And, the thing about technology, and any of you look again, we go back to Web 1, Web 2, and now we're calling it Web 3. You can put whatever labels you want on these things. The growth happens exponentially. And I know we've heard Jeb talk about it many times, like the adoption rates. So the adoption rate of say Web 1 took, I don't know, let's call it 10 years. the adoption rate of social media and Web 2, that took about 7 years. The blockchain is gonna be adopted at even a faster rate.
Yeah.
Now, depending on the technology and all the bumps and whatever, there's just really, really smart people working on it. But because we have the internet and Web3 has the internet to help it grow,
Yeah.
the speed at which this is going to happen is going to just blow people away.
Right.
So yeah,
Yes.
I believe that the world will live on the blockchain. Every type of identification, every type of contract, anything that's legalized, anything that's legitimized is going to be a part of the blockchain.
Well, yeah, as a whole, as we're wrapping this one up, great conference. Great conference. What I want to ask Matt, you now have officially, we've met before in person, but you got to stay in an Airbnb with myself, with Greg. First question, would you do it again?
How much are we going to divulge here?
Oh my gosh.
If you had to choose between me and Greg,
Okay, I can tell you. I can tell you
out.
one thing. Okay, I can to the community. I can, with 100% certainty, say that Tim does have a full set of hair under that hat,
Boom.
and it is official.
It's a
Yes,
wig.
you do have a
Official.
full set of hair. Again, I think we all talked about it the last day we were there, or even during the show. What a joy! What a great couple days it was.
Yes.
Number one, just the fact that you asked me to come stay with you, that was awesome. I would do it again in a heartbeat. So be careful what you ask for.
Boom.
Yeah, because
Well,
this might become a regular.
My
thing,
favorite
guys.
part of the
Yeah, guys.
Airbnb was the front desk guy. Hi there.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God.
funniest
The guy with the
content.
small
People in
hands?
Texas.
Yes.
Hey, wait. How about let's just give a shout out to Texas in general.
Yeah.
Yes, they were short staffed and they had difficulties. Wow, was everybody super
Texas
nice.
is dope.
It was dope. They were really cool. Our Uber
Yeah.
driver. Oh wait, the bag.
Okay.
I was
Why-
gonna say the one improvement to the trip is
bag.
we need a new security
up.
system for Greg's bag that was lost 1, 2, 3, 4 or
Three
5 times. The same bag.
It's so funny because you know how it says it adds 10 pounds on the camera? Well, so do the lies, apparently. They just added.
No.
It was two times.
I think it was more than
You
two.
multiplied it twice.
I think we caught
the
you
one-
early.
Smay's just sitting
Yeah, he
back
kept
there not
leaving
saying
your
a
bag
word. He
behind.
doesn't
The one
defend me.
The one that really stunk was the one when you left it in the conference. So it's hard to explain, but it's a convention center. And we went up to the interview
We
room
had
with
to-
Charles.
He left it in
and
Charles's
we
private
don't
room.
even know where we were.
I did that on accident, I think.
Go back to St. Charles
Gosh.
again.
Charles, are you there?
Oh my gosh.
No? Wearing your underwear.
Oh my gosh.
That's
Well,
funny. No, it
well,
was
yeah.
great. We had, I think, we had one of the best weekends I can
Yeah.
remember in a very, very long time. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And hanging out with Harry and Jet
Oh,
and
yeah.
all the people at Penny Fly. Again, what a great group of people they were.
Greg thinks it's
You know,
Pennywise.
and-
Greg was
and-
hanging out
and
with
for me,
clowns the whole weekend.
I got to
Got
meet
to
Kelly
partner up with
Kellum in
them too,
person.
potentially, so I should get that right.
Wait, what was that?
I'm just saying he was hanging out with a bunch of clowns the whole weekend because he was hanging out with
The
Pennywise.
Pennywise guys, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice of you, Greg.
Oh my
Way
gosh.
to show support.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
But-
what about for you guys?
So what?
Can I be
Yeah.
your roommate again?
Oh yeah, no. Matt's on top of his gang. His game is good. He's clean.
Yeah.
He's organized. He great conversation.
like
Now
Greg.
he kept me up a couple nights. Maybe I kept him up a couple nights. We had some conversations into the
Yeah.
wee hours of the morning. Here's the other thing about Matt, and
That's
I'll
it.
say this last thing about Matt. Matt parties.
I was just going to say,
Matt parties harder than most people I've ever seen.
he's got a motor.
This dude was
He can
staying up.
go.
He like Greg and
I
I are
have
sitting here
energy.
saying it's midnight. We're going home. We're going to bed. Matt's out here to parties till like 3 a.m. in
Yeah.
the morning.
Coming back,
No.
coming back
I just
super
have
late.
energy. You know what? I've always been that way. I can function on a few hours of sleep. It's just the
Gosh.
way it is.
You got a
So-
skill set there.
Matt, you are such a good guy.
Yes.
And
Thank you.
I
I
really
appreciate
do.
it.
I really do love you, bro. Like you're a family.
And-
to
and
the,
we're gonna-
to the
I
channel.
love you guys too.
We're gonna help Matt out too because Matt told me while we were out there that he was offended that T Shroom now has more appearances of him than him on Between Two Coins. He wants to compete.
I'm coming after T-Shroom's
This is
record.
number 2 for him.
So
T
this
Shroom's
is
now but
2?
3.
4.
T Shroom's had 4. Man, Matt's got some work to do.
Oh wait, 4?
Yeah, he's got
Pretty sure
4
it's
now.
4, right?
Oh. And you know what? He has home field advantage.
He does. And so, but Matt, you gotta step up your game. You gotta
Also,
step. You got the party game going. Now you gotta
spamming
step
you
up
ideas.
your appearance.
Maybe it's
game.
3. I don't know.
I don't know. We'll have to go back and look at the tape. But you know,
Who knows,
as
you know what, we might be living out there in Florida one of these
that's
days.
I
in the not too distant future.
would love to see it. But hey, guys, we're gonna go and wrap this one up.
And you
I
know
think.
what?
Oh, yep, Matt.
I just want to say one last thing before we wrap up.
Yeah.
I recommend and I do encourage people. I know it's expensive. We know this isn't possible all the time, but if you get a chance, go out and go to the conference because.
Yes.
I remember getting into crypto very early. One of the, I don't remember who it was, but they said, get out there and network. And it's really important. It has changed my life. It has made this process, A, far more enjoyable. B, it has advanced my knowledge exponentially in a way that probably wouldn't have happened if we weren't out there engaging. So, going to the conference is a big way to do it. Getting in and actually physically being a part of something like that, it makes a difference. And I think you can learn a lot. So I would encourage people to just get out there. If there's local meetups in crypto, go to your local meetups, get involved in some decent discords. But yeah, make yourself present in the crypto space and it will help advance, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish.
Matt stole the words right out of my mouth. That's what I was going to say is the wrap up. The takeaway from this entire episode was to engage with these conferences and everything he just said, the relationships, the knowledge, it is all so important. The networking, you just never know what it's going to look like the future. These people you meet here. When you talk about innovators, technically speaking, anyone who's invested in crypto, who is involved in crypto, you are like a mini innovator because you are the testing ground of this future of blockchain. And the people that we meet, you just don't know where it's going to get to. So again, encourage every single one of you to continue to create financial sovereignty. And one of the investments you need to make is get to know the crypto space. And the best way to do that is to go to some of these conferences. Yeah. So as we, that was my closing remark and Matt got his. Greg, any closing remarks from you?
Invest in ADA.
Hey.
This is not financial advice, but it is.
Boom.
Isn't.
Yeah. Well, that's all we have for you guys on this episode of Between Two Coins. We will be back. We'll be back with Coffee and Crypto next week on Monday. You don't want to miss it. With that being said, though, I will see you in the next video. Peace. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Also, comment down below so we can continue to give you the best videos possible. Peace.